guys, back at another Cardfight Vanguard deck profile. So I hope you guys enjoy it. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the page. Let's get started. This time, it's my Nubatama budget deck profile. So, as you know, my friend, Wandering Mandala, he is a fan of ninja decks. So, I built this deck for him. It works pretty well, because he's used it before. So, let's go ahead and get this started. Starting Vanguard is Evil Stealth Dragon, Uchimitsu Maru. So, standard reward upon draw a card, and then if your opponent's Vanguard is grade 1 or greater, you get a Quick Shield. That Quick Shield's really useful. You can discard it for skill cost. I don't think there's any cards in this deck that discard, but I'm probably wrong about that. And even if you don't, it's a 5k shield, so really useful, amazing starter, and it kind of fits the deck's theme more or less. I mean, if you're one of those people like me where you don't like to mix starters with other starters, like you want to keep Magetsu starter to Magetsu alone, then this is like the starter for you then. Okay, on to the triggers. 4 copies of Stealth Beast, Miju Garokue. At the time of building this deck, this is the only card that's over $1 per copy. So, draw PG, you know, the classic Sentinel, you can only have 4 on the deck, and then when placed on guard, you can discard it, and basically the attack won't go through no matter what. And it's a draw trigger, which is really useful. Draw triggers are amazing in this deck, PGs are amazing in this deck, combine them together, you get this thing, and this thing is beautiful as hell. So, awesome card, 4 copies. We got 8 crit, 4 Kuragane, and 4 Tobahiko. And finally, we got 4 heals of Stealth Fiend Zashakimi. I'm not even sure if I said that right, but it's, you know, standard 8 crit, 4 draw, 4 heal. And, you know, crit sacking is the way to win. So now onto the grade 1s. 3 copies of Stealth Fiend or Baru Cart. Auto Rearguard Circle, when placed, also 8k base and 10k shield, discard a card from your hand, and double the power of one of your grade 3 or greater units in the same column as this unit till end of turn, increased by its current power at the time, which is really useful. The max a unit, I believe, can get off of this on its own is 30k, which isn't that much, but still, being able to double a power and just being able to hit for higher numbers just by discarding a hand card and this thing being placed is also just really amazing. And I forgot to write down its second skill, but its second skill is Auto Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle that it attacked or boosted, counterblast 1 and return it to the hand. That's really useful, you know, doubling power and then, you know, getting to bounce this thing back to hand for extra guarding. It's amazing. So, 3 copies. 3 copies of Stealth Dragon, Anton Brand, a promo card. Act Rearguard Circle, once per turn, also 7k base. Rest this unit, and your opponent chooses one of his or her units in the same column as it, and returns it to their hand. If he or she returned a rearguard, stand this unit gets +3 till end of turn. So pretty much, rest it, bounce a card on their field, it gets +3, and it restands. So, you know, free ability, grants only once per turn, but that's still amazing. So 3 copies. Because the deck focuses on bouncing stuff back to hand if you couldn't already figure that out. And 4 copies of Stealth Dragon Dreadmaster. 10k shield, 8k base, auto Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. When placed, discard a card from your hand, draw a card, and then if your Vanguard is sure a Stealth Dragon Kujikiricongo, Soul Blast 1, your opponent chooses one of his or her rearguards, bounces it to their hand, and then they choose a card from their hand and discard it. So yep, this deck focuses on Shura Stealth Dragon Kujikiricongo. You bounce their stuff to hand, and then you make them this card for it, and then this card actually gives you a free draw from it too. And you can use the Quick Shield as the cost for this, so, you know, really useful. 4 copies, Ace grade 1. On to grade 2s. 3 copies of Stealth Dragon, Dan Breach. Continuous Rearguard Circle. If you or your opponent's rearguard was returned to your hand during this turn, this unit gets +6. So pretty much a 15k base during both you and your opponent's turn. If you can bounce a card during your opponent's turn, I don't think you can do that, but if you can, go ahead and do it. But yeah, 15k base, really useful, and it can just hit for, you know, numbers, and 5k shield with intercept. 4 copies of Stealth Beast, Chigasumi. Auto Rearguard Circle, when it attacks, discard a card from your hand. This unit gets +15k power to end of turn with a 9k base. So, you know, 24k attacker, that's really useful at all times. That can just be really good to make your opponent have to damage check 2 triggers to shut this down. Just by discarding a hand card, it hits 1 trigger number, so you need 2 triggers to shut it down. Or, you know, if they're playing MLB, which may or may not come out soon, well, it is coming out soon, then you could, you know, drop shield, like a 10k shield for this, or, you know, just damage check 1 trigger and it's shut down. But still, really amazing, awesome card, 4 copies. 4 copies of Stealth Beast, Tamahagane. Auto Rearguard Circle, when placed, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's rearguards and return it to their hand. If it was returned, yeah, your opponent chooses a card from his or her hand and discards it, and then continues to rearguard. If your opponent's hand is 4 or less, this unit gets plus 5k power. So that's really good. That happens both during you and your opponent's turn. So a permanent 14k base during your and your opponent's turn if they have 4 less hand cards. But also, you can bounce a rear guard and then make them discard one. And as I've said before, this deck focuses on getting to bounce stuff to their hand and then forcing them to discard. So they lose guarding power and they possibly lose rear guards in the process if they just want to discard that rear guard. So really good. 4 copies. And then 4 copies of the Ace Grade 2. It's kind of heavy, more or less. Sure Stealth Dragon, Kujikiricongo. Auto Rearguard Circle when placed. If your Vanguard is Sure Stealth Dragon Kujikiricongo, this unit gets plus 3k power to end of turn. Then, Counterblast 2, return all your opponent's rear guards in the same column as this unit to their hand. And then if you do, your opponent chooses the same number of cards equal to the number of cards returned from their hand and discard them, 9k base. So that's really useful. It becomes a 12k base the second it's placed, and you can counter, so it can hit grade 3 numbers besides force, and then you can counterblast 2 to bounce everything in the same column as it, and then force them to discard. The problem is, it's relying on Sure Stealth Dragon, Kujikiricongo. So if you don't have Kujikiricongo in the Vanguard Circle, this thing automatically becomes a vanilla on place, or just in vanilla in general. And I don't know why. I hate this card. It's good. It's really good. It's just that before, it was a part of, Ninja Master M's whole break right from Kujikiricongo onto this thing. So if you don't remember, this thing used to be a grade 3. And I kept rewatching it over and over and over again of Kujikiricongo being broke road from this thing. Being break righted on top by this thing. And Kujikiricongo screwing over Nagisa's limit break, Hell's 8 attack, or whatever she called it. And I don't know why. It bothers me that this is a grade 2 now and not a grade 3 that did an amazing skill. So, it bothers me. It's not as good as it used to be. I'm probably the only one who cares about this, but it matters a lot to me. So, 4 copies, not as cool as the last one, though. And now onto grade 3s. 4 copies of Stealth Dragon Voidmaster. When placed, auto Vanguard, 12k base and protect gift. When placed, auto Vanguard or Rearguard Circle. Until end of turn, your opponent cannot intercept, and then this unit gets plus 3. So automatically, by being placed, it becomes a 15k base, and you can stop your opponent from intercepting. Then, also auto and Vanguard Rearguard Circle. At the end of the battle they attacked, counterblast 1, choose one of you or your opponent's rear guards and return it to hand. So, you can bounce their rear guard, or say for some reason you fucking called a draw PG to the rear guard to boost and you failed miserably. Well, you can bounce it back to hand. Or, you got an important rear guard that you don't want to lose, bounce that back to hand. Or Kujikiricongo, bounce that to hand, etc. Just keep bouncing shit that you don't want to have die or that you called by mistake back to the hand. Really useful card. 4 copies. And on to the last grade 3. 4 copies of Sure Stealth Dragon, Kujikiricongo. Act Vanguard Circle once per turn. If your opponent's hand has 4 or more cards, counterblast 1 and they discard 1. So, just by flat out counterblasting 1, you can force them to discard if they have 4 or more hand cards. What, you sitting over there with pretty 5 hand cards 6 hand cards and 3 of them are draw PGs? Guess what? Now you gotta discard 1, so now one of those draw PGs is useless. Hell yeah, amazing card. But then also, auto Vanguard Circle. When your opponent's rear guards return to his or her hand by your card ability, your opponent cannot cards of the same grade as the cards returned to the hand until end of turn. So, this technically could stop your opponent from guarding, but they would have to call a grade 0, 1, 2, and 3. The grade 3, 2, and 1 I can imagine. They would only call a trigger if they were Grand Blue or Pale Moon and they called from their respective zones, or if they just got really unlucky and they had to get a booster out, or an attacker for that matter. But either way, this could technically, in theory, become a guard restrict. It's just, full on guard restrict, it just really depends on what they called. But still, amazing card, really good, 4 copies, Ace grade 3. And now, onto the gifts, your standard. I don't know why I keep putting quantity for this. I guess it's because my friend told me that you're supposed to have a certain number of gifts, and I believed him, and apparently he was lying. So, ignore the quantity on the gifts. That's just me believing a lie that I shouldn't. But anyways, pretty much, it's a PG, protect 1, you discard a card, and then it can't be hit till end of turn. I battle. You're only going to ride 4 times in this deck in total, so you might as well run 4 of each gift just in case, but, you can run however many you want, then protect 2. When acquired, put this marker on the rear guard, and then the unit on it gets plus 5k and 10k shield and intercepts. Protect 2, not that useful. Honestly, it's only useful in decks that can intercept from the back row, such as like Nubatama Hanzo or what was the other deck I was thinking of earlier? Oh right, Angel Feather Malakuth Meliki, because they can intercept from the back row, so it's slightly harder for your opponent to kill them. So they can't really touch it easily and then the 10k shield actually becomes useful. But when it's in the front row, they can just ram into it and then they lose 10k shield altogether. So it's not the best, but in certain decks it works. Well, that was the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and donate to the Patreon. See you on the next one. Don't forget to stand up your Vanguard.